this video we're going to talk about the concepts of a couple. And in a nutshell, a couple are two forces that have the same magnitude, but they have opposite direction and they're not in the same line of action. We're gonna see that these type of forces have a special characteristic, which is when they are applied to the same rigid body, they create a moment, and that moment can be basically moved anywhere in that rigid body. So let's look at this. So for a couple, I'm gonna say that the definition of a couple is going to be two forces that have the same magnitude they have opposite direction, and another important part is that the line, so they have different lines of action, but they're parallel to each other. What do I mean by that? So if I want to make a drawing of a couple, I can say, for example, that this force F1 and this force, assuming that those two lines are parallel, F2, those two forces form a couple, as long as the magnitude of the two of them are the same. So if F1 is equal to the magnitude of F2. All right, and this is where the interesting things about these couples start happening, which is, if you notice, the direction is opposite, they have the same magnitude. So if I add these two forces, it's gonna give me 0. But when these two forces are applied to the same rigid body, let's say that we have a rigid body, right? They are applied to a rigid body. What's going to happen is that that rigid body is going to try to rotate, right? It's going to try to rotate in this direction, it's going to rotate clockwise. And the that rotation is going to be created by the moment created by this couple. And the moment created by this couple can be easily calculated. By this perpendicular distance. So if this is the perpendicular distance between these two lines, I'm going to call that D. You can say that the moment created by that couple is going to be equal to plus or minus, and remember that plus or minus is decided depending on your right hand rule. But then we have the magnitude of that force, either one of them, times D. Okay, so it's relatively easy to calculate the moment. Here we have that this is depending on the right hand side, right? Right hand rule. Right, so depending on the right hand rule. Okay, so that is, in a nutshell, how the concept of a couple. And again, one of the nice characteristics of these couples is that when you add them, they're equal to 0, but you still have a remaining moment. And that moment can be actually moved anywhere in that rigid body.